Hi, everyone, and welcome to a new edition of Newsmakers on the air since 2014 with analysis and commentary about the biggest local news stories in Santa Barbara from our top local journalists who join us this morning. Josh Molina from Newshawk, Nick Welsh from Independent, and Callie Fausey, staff writer for the Santa Barbara Independent. 263 days till the presidential election. Trump is up by a point nationwide, but the betting markets have him a 43.4% favorite compared to Biden 27.8. So time to get on those work permits for nations in Europe and elsewhere. Callie, we've been talking for several months about the very heated conflict between the teachers union and the administration at Santa Barbara Unified School District. This week they had their biggest demonstration yet. You were there. What happened?
It was really crazy, actually, Jared. There were more than like 600 people there, 400 of which I think were teachers. Um, and it was just like families. People brought out like strollers and dogs. It was like a huge crowd. And they marched all the way from the Unitarian Society to the district office, which is about a mile, after having a rally at the Unitarian Society to learn more about the recent negotiations. And they just had to bring in a state mediator and declare an impasse because they weren't seeing, the district and the SBTA were not seeing eye to eye on salary negotiations.
They even brought in a marching band.
Yeah, they did. I think it was I asked the SBTA president Osby about the marching band, and he said that they were all music teachers. So,
Oh, well, that's
yeah.
nice. So but they were marching to the school board meeting, correct? And then did they have like 92 people testify again or in public comment?
Yeah, so they marched to the school board meeting right in time to get there for public comment. And of course, yeah, they took up a lot of time just cycling in and out of that podium. So,
Yeah, and is it fair to say that the one and only sticking point is the salary increase, correct? Or the size of the salary increase? I guess they've agreed in principle that there's going to be a salary increase.
yeah, that's the main thing is, the SPTA is really sticking with their 15% this year, 8% next year proposal. And Santa Barbara Unified is just, they don't really want to go there, I guess. They felt that the SPTA wasn't negotiating in good faith by just sticking with that proposal and not, offering something else. But yeah, the district is only offering 9% this year and 4% the following. So it's about a 10% difference in their
10%
proposal.
difference over 2 years. And do we
Mhm.
know who the mediator is?
It's some guy named Rich Anderson from the Public Employees Relations Board. Um, yeah, I looked him up. I didn't really find much on him other than that.
And those are not those are closed sessions or the closed door sessions, correct? And
Yeah.
that's going to start when, next week or the week after? I guess, yeah, the week after.
Starts on March 5th. I can't even put the calendar in my head, but it starts on March 5th.
Election
It's a
day,
Tuesday.
after which before which everyone will have voted before election day. Josh, you almost died covering this covering this demonstration. What was your takeaway?
Yeah, I scaled the wall at the Museum of Art and fortunately caught my balance before it was, not going to be a very impressive scene for anyone if I had fallen. But I love covering these kinds of events, and I love covering parades and marches and rallies because there's so much energy. There's so much energy. There were parents, there were so many kids, there were babies. I Callie said they had their dogs with them. Their dogs had signs wrapped around them, and it was so cool to be able to cover that journalistically. And it's also logistically tough because you're taking photos, you have to run ahead, you have to kind of be in the right spot. You also have to kind of get interviews. You can't just be this observer. So it was pretty incredible. And it started with the students and their walkout, and now the teachers are following. And then they marched to the district headquarters. They went up, I think it was Santa Barbara Street, down to Victoria, up State Street, and then maybe Cannon Perdido or one of those, and then turned back toward the district on Santa Barbara. And so it was very impressive. What was not impressive is, inside, the school board just kind of doing their thing. And I don't know. I don't understand how tone deaf they are.
Has
not
Hilda
acknowledge it.
Maldonado, has the superintendent been available for interviews about this, or she's just not talking and saying John Becchio is going to handle all this, and I'm not going to really get into it?
She's talked to me a little bit early on, but mostly I've had to go through statements through Ed Zakelli, the PIO. So I think that she's careful about not saying anything that could affect negotiations. And also, I don't know how Callie felt when she walked in the room, but when I walked in there, they just looked Hilda in particular just looked so uncomfortable and not really feeling the power of that energy, which she should be happy that she has teachers with this kind of passion. And I don't know why she takes it so personally.
Yeah. It's just continues this trend since she came to town, which is she's never gotten the public facing role of this, or the importance of the public facing role of that position, and how she needs to be seen in this community. You can't have that kind of job and not do that. And she just has done a really not very good job about all that. All right. Go ahead, Kelly.
I was going to say, just like, at the same time, I can kind of see where the school board members are coming from, or why they would feel like uncomfortable, or, not super excited to see like the group of teachers come in, because like over the past, like 7-ish meetings, they've just been yelled at essentially. And I am all for the teachers speaking out about their experiences. And I definitely think that they deserve fair compensation and, just a better work environment. But, they come in and they kind of say some rude and aggressive things sometimes. So I just know I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of that.
All right. We'll say Callie's not going to run for school board next time.
Yeah, it's hard.
Well,
You want, you want 10% more than what we're willing to give, and we're all going to go home a lot later than we would otherwise, and we're going to feel bad. And it would be hard to say, we are so thrilled with the energy and excitement that you exhibit and the passion, but come back later.
How hard is it to say, listen, we really love our teachers, we're doing all we can to work this out, it's
Yeah,
complicated.
that wouldn't be hard.
Nobody likes to be criticized and then offer compliments, but I think one of the reasons for the frustration they have is it's just so silent. Like they might calm down maybe a little bit if there's some acknowledgement of what they're doing. And instead it's just like one little thing. We tried to enter, I was with the marchers, tried to enter through the boardroom, and Steve Venz was like, no, go around, and like directed everybody to go.
The deputy superintendent.
The COO, yeah, to go around. And so even just that, it's like, just stop pretending like it's this war and just look at it from a perspective of this is a tough thing that we have to do, and let's try to work together.
Hey, Josh, before we leave this, go ahead.
Sorry, Jerry. I was going to say, I was kind of, I guess it was kind of refreshing the last board meeting, because the board members actually did talk about it. Like, Gabe Escobedo had this long monologue of like, we understand, and, you guys come here and tell us the same things, and we feel your struggle and we care about our employees. So I guess that was kind of, I think it was after like most of the teachers had left, unfortunately, but it was nice to see them actually, talk about it. like I feel like sometimes we watch these board meetings and they just sit there and they kind of just take all of these comments, and it's like, show some humanity, like be a little bit of a human being.
Yeah, and I mean, I've never quite understood why they're not allowed to respond to public comment, and I'm, they get very good legal advice, so I'm sure there's a reason. But they all also each get, an opportunity to say whatever they want to say. It's like free talk time for them. And there's a way, again, to do it without addressing the specifics of either the testimony or the negotiations that are going on. I think that and I think that's your point is exactly right. They want to be heard. They want to know they're being heard. But it's just like, geez, and who thinks anything on that? Hey,
No,
Josh,
it's just
about jumping up on that wall, I'm reminded. I just want to say of what the late Larry Crandall used to say when he was playing basketball into his 80s, which is, my mind is writing checks that my body can't cash. So the next time you're thinking about jumping on a wall, just keep that in mind.
Larry Crandall didn't have to compete with Ingrid for the best photos of the event. So, she's raising my game. And so I'm trying to stay up to, but yes, I'm not going to be climbing any walls with cheap Skechers shoes anytime soon.
All right, good. All right. And then Kelly, you also had a piece about the Goleta Unified School District this week, and they're making some cuts. I mean, the state has sort of, gone from this huge surplus to this huge deficit in about 12 minutes. And it's affecting, obviously, school funding for basic aid. If I got that right, is it basic aid or is it the other one? I always get them mixed up. Anyway, what's going on in Goleta?
So Goleta, the school board just voted to cut, I think it was about 16 positions. So like custodians, content specialists, who are the people who do instruction like PE and art, and intervention specialists who work with students who are struggling with reading or other subjects. And they're also reducing the hours of some content specialists because they have about a 2.5 million operating deficit right now that they have to take care of. And they're doing that by basically cutting at the bottom of the totem pole. And
They have to do that now because they have to give notice, correct, for the following school year, right? I mean, they have to do it in the spring or late winter. So are there any teachers' positions per se being cut? Yeah.
those were listed as potential reductions that they didn't move forward with this year. They were thinking about increasing class sizes because that's one of the main changes that they had during the pandemic, was reducing class sizes. So they were thinking about, we can go back, we can increase class sizes, but that would involve teacher layoffs, and I'm sure that wouldn't have such a warm reception.
Yeah. Yeah. You quoted Emily Zacharias in that piece, and then we mentioned Gabe Escobedo earlier, these progressive people that, in good faith, I think, run for office, and they want to do all this stuff. And then the problem that confronts them coming in is there's this incredible shrinking pie. And how do you divide up a shrinking pie? It's a difficult thing. It's a difficult political adjustment to make. All right. Well, at City Hall, Nick, we got a new administrator, and that sort of happened kind of quietly and suddenly. There wasn't much of a discussion about the process, but it's Kelly McAdoo.
Kelly McAdoo is her name, but on her voicemail, I have spoken to her voicemail in the city of Hayward, where she comes from, and she's been working there for about 17 years. At first as a assistant city administrator, and I think the last 7 as the city administrator. And Hayward's up in the East Bay. Before that, she worked for Palo Alto, and she, according to what we have gleaned from various press releases, has experience dealing with tenant protection politics, which of course is a hot issue throughout the state. You have how do you repurpose retail downtowns into housing, which seems extremely germane to what the city of Santa Barbara is doing here. Her predecessor as city administrator, but we've had a real sort of whirligig of city administrators. We had Paul Casey, then we had Rebecca Bjork, and then we had Sarah Connect, and now we have Kelly Mercado is how she pronounces it.
Oh, Mikado.
And that was how it was on her answering machine. I'm
Really?
probably getting that wrong.
But Senator McAdoo was pronounced McAdoo.
And so she is a distant relative of former Vice President and California Senator William Gibbs McAdoo, who was sort of the bagman for the New Deal, passing out federal parks to California districts in the great state of California. He didn't know jack about California when he was made senator, so he relied upon Thomas Morris Short, who was the founder of the News Press, to help him distribute that park. Santa Barbara, as a result, got a whole lot of it. And McAdoo lives here in town. So there is a interesting connection.
That is an interesting connection.
Do
Go ahead.
Yeah. So she's taken over. It's been just sort of a who's on first at City Hall. Rebecca Bjork was the former public works director. She had a get stuff done, no nonsense quality to her. And she had expressed hope late last year that there would be somehow some kind of a deal regarding converting Paseo Nuevo into 500 rental units by the end of the year. That did not happen despite how formidable Bjork actually is. It is going to be a tricky deal. It may not be a possible deal. We don't know. But Machado hopefully will be able to pull some rabbits out of her hat.
Yeah. Yeah. That is sort of job number one. Do we know where she stands on the parklets, Nick? Most importantly, and electric bikes threatening the lives of elders downtown.
I think she believes in passing out broomsticks to all people over the age of 65, so they can stick them into the spokes of electric bikes as they go whizzing by.
The Mike Jordan solution for State Street renovation. Yeah, okay, we like that one. All right, Josh, you had this piece about the Eastside Bridge going to the waterfront. I guess that's been talked about for a long time, but suddenly it emerges and there's money for it, or there isn't money for it, or it costs a lot of money. Talk about that. Explain that whole issue a little bit.
So the city of Santa Barbara is considering building a $32 million pedestrian and bicycle bridge over Highway 101 from the lower east side to the waterfront. And so it would go over where Canada and I forget the cross street, but there's Sunrise Mobile Home Park is. And it would go over 101, and they have identified this as part of their pedestrian master plan as a way to increase the number of people who can access the waterfront. Because if you live in that neighborhood, you have to go kind of around and up Milpas, and there's a higher collision, traffic accident rate, and safety hazard. So they are looking to apply for grant money through a couple different state solutions, routes. And so that's what they were talking. They've been doing outreach since COVID. They've had workshops, and this is the plan. They also want to do about $8 million in separate curb extensions and other enhancements on the Lower East Side, because that area is very dense, and if you try to get a parking space, a lot of people use their cars. You're trying to increase mobility, and so that you don't need a car to be able to access the waterfront. Most other places of town, you don't have to cross 101 to do that. So that was what was proposed, and the issue sort of got a little weird because I guess some council members don't read their staff reports, or they're in an election year and they're kind of playing politics, but they were sort of surprised to see this item on the agenda, to hear the way that it had been communicated to the media, which, as far as I know, is the only one who wrote about
which is right here.
it. Exactly.
The
So
mass media.
so they were sort of concerned because I guess they, on social media, on Facebook, people were complaining that this was a waste of money, and they were telling Jessica Grant, the supervising transportation planner, I should say Mike Jordan, was saying, you know, when you talk to the media, you need to be able to frame it in a way where you focus on the low number so they can't focus on the big number, essentially telling them they need to spin these numbers in a different way. And it was just kind of frustrating because he said, you know, I woke up this morning to a bunch of people on social media complaining about $32 million. And it was just kind of unfortunate that the meeting, a part of it, was spent criticizing staff's outreach, the story I wrote, when the real issue is there are people on the east side, there are kids on the east side who do not have the same access to the waterfront as people who live in other parts of the city. And so the staff is just thinking, hey, let's fix this. Let's try to find some grant solutions and let's build this bridge. And instead you had conversations about the framing and the narrative of the issue in the meeting.
I would assume Alejandra Gutierrez and Megan are all in on this, huh?
Well, not really. Megan is very much in support of it. I think Council Member Alejandra Gutierrez might be also, but I know that she had some comments for staff as well, suggesting that you know, her constituents may not have been informed about this in the way that they would appreciate. So she was a little bit critical of staff as well on the process. Megan Harmon kind of cleared the air and said, no one should be surprised. This is an iterative conversation. It's been talked about for decades, even before COVID. And by the way, city staff showed results of 2 surveys of Eastside residents, the results of a workshop. And so there's been lots of discussion on it, but it's an election year.
Well, I
And
think
man,
the
do council
other thing
members
here-
get weird during election years?
Hey, people get weird election year, and I think you can never underestimate the outrage of grumpy old men who wants to see a waste of tax dollars no matter what. And Santa Barbara clearly has a significant grumpy old man factor, and I can say that shit now because I now am one. But I think this has been in the planning stages for a long time, but so long that people have forgotten it. And I think there is a huge, it's not just sort of a bicycle bridge. It's a pedestrian bridge as well as a bicycle bridge. And that is a hugely significant factor for people living in that neighborhood, because they're kind of landlocked in terms of getting to the beach. And for some time at City Hall, I think even before district elections, but after district elections, certainly more, hey, this is a community that is being denied by traffic impediments its access to the sunshine. And we're going to try and change that. So it's a positive thing, but I think messaging is always a problem. And I think certainly since COVID, and it's not just grumpy old men, it's just like you're sort of stupid you're stupid until proven otherwise if you're a city hall proposal. What are you doing that for? And there's that sort of preemptive strike against anything. You know, and to be perfectly honest, I looked at it, I said, really? How many people are going to actually ride their bikes on it? I had to remind myself, it isn't just bike riders. It's pedestrians, and that is a highly pedestrian neighborhood. And
I'm trying to picture this. So how I mean, do we know how long this thing is, or what's the size of it? I'm seeing some, you know, Bay Bridge 8.5 mile long thing here or something, but it's
No,
not.
it's a very handsome bridge that just goes over 101. It's basically like the ones you drive under, but modern and looking a little nicer. on 101 that we see kind of around Arriaga and over Highway 101, you know, like by Mission, I guess, in those areas. So it's kind of like that. That would be the size of it. So
Okay, all right. Hey, Nick, real quick, I thought the most disturbing story I read this week was about the food stamps. The county hiring a whole bunch of more people just to process food stamp applications because the demand has gotten so high. What's that all about?
You know, it's yes, I think they are hiring. I want to say 89. You know, in all to process the applications. Food stamp applications, it turns out, are exceptionally difficult to you know, fill out and submit. The only applications that are probably more inhibiting and prohibitive are city college. When you're a city college student trying to fill out the applications there, those are impossible. But at food stamps, and you only are good for a year, and you have to constantly be redoing it. And they want to know things. Does your family have a grave somewhere for a dead relative? Because that might be deemed real estate asset.
Oh, a cemetery plot? Yeah.
Yeah. So they really are trying to screen people who are not the so-called worthy poor. And it is, if you happen to be poor and you're struggling to figure out how to fill this out, it's a challenge. And so as a result, Santa Barbara County has been leaving so much money and benefit on the table. So about 10 years ago, 40% of the people who were eligible were actually receiving it. 40%. And now it is up to 71. But to get to 100%, 23,000 new households would have to be added. So right now, 1/7 of the population of Santa Barbara County is receiving food stamps, which is a sobering reminder
That is. I mean, that's
of the
extraordinary.
reality. But in a weird way, this is a perversely a success story. Santa Barbara County said, we're not going to leave all the money on the table. We're going to go out there and we're going to help these people get the benefits to which they need. And that has been so difficult because of the arduousness of the process.
Yeah. Wow. That's a really interesting story that just kind of came out of nowhere.
That's what happens when you read the agendas.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, good piece. All right. Let's talk a little politics real quick. We had the endorsement of Joyce Dudley, former district attorney, and Pat McElroy, former fire chief, and Barney Malekian, former undersheriff and acting police chief, of Roy Lee, city Carpinteria city council member, who's running a what we would call a long shot campaign against Das Williams, but it's just the latest evidence of, I think, widespread unhappiness with him. Nick, what was your takeaway?
Well, I think if you read the actual endorsements, it was a little bit more detailed than Roy Lee is a heck of a nice guy. But, you know, it was like,
I thought that there was more like Roy Lee is an honest person, but go ahead.
I think it really goes to the ABZ nature of Roy Lee's candidacy, anybody but Das. And I think this is an anybody but Das endorsement. I think they all have their bones to pick with Das.
And also 20 years of experience.
And a lot of experience. And I'm not trying to minimize it. I think that Das has been around a long time. He has a very definite manner, and you know, when he's good, he's very good, but when he's bad, he's really bad. And the word arrogant is a word that just sort of pops out of people's mouth. And these are not just the people like yourself, Jerry, who were born and bred. Like if Das Williams would come up with a cure for cancer, you would find a reason why.
I have 20 years of experience with him too, so
I know you do. So do I. But it's not those people.
I went to elementary school with him, so I got both of you beat.
he is rubbing people. Part of it is he's been around a long time, and part of it is last time around he ran against Laura Capps, the Capps name, tons of money, everything was hot, and he survived that one. And I think when you survive what looks like an oncoming car crash, you maybe don't need to pay attention as much. And he has a way of being sanctimonious and scolding to people who take other positions, and that doesn't really go over well.
That's exactly right, Nick. That is exactly. You can't just have an honest disagreement. No, if you disagree with me, you're immoral, or you're not, doing the right thing ethically, or you're a bad, he's always got to demonize the opposition. And I think that's a big part of what rubs people the
I mean,
wrong.
what I've heard, and again, I'm not listening to this in any exhaustive way, but just sort of cursory rounds, there's no middle ground. It's my way or the highway. And and we've written about this with La Cumbre Plaza, for example, when he sabotaged the city of Santa Barbara's efforts to get a comprehensive plan for the whole piece. And he could have just said no, blah blah blah, but he had to do that sort of city of Santa Barbara uses the design review process to sandbag developers. He has a tendency to kick them while they're down, or at least it feels that way when you're on the ground.
Hey, Callie, have you had the opportunity to sit on any of the editorial board meetings over there when people are coming in hat in hand, seeking Mary Ann's nod of approval? You haven't been doing that?
No, I haven't been there, but I should.
Yeah, it might be interesting. Josh, did you happen to notice in the list of the independence endorsements yesterday when the paper came out, leading with a 10,000 word hagiographic tribute to Joan Hartman, that appears that every Democratic office holder but one was on that list. It sort of reminded me of the Women's Political Committee, that there was only one name missing from there. I wonder how that's going to go.
I don't know, but I think that Supervisor Williams, after being successful in his last campaign over Laura Capps, it amped up his perceived arrogance level. And I think he just feels like I can do no wrong, I'm unbeatable. And we're sort of seeing that attitude play out. And so it's no longer the people in the corners who are gonna hate him no matter what. It's now his friends, his allies, who are saying under their breath privately, God, I hope he loses. I really hope he loses. I know he's not going to lose, but I hope he does. People close to him are saying these things about him. And it's kind of sad. I think it's unfortunate that he is running hard against it instead of being more vulnerable and just sort of saying, yeah, I've messed up here and I want to fix it. But that's not his style, I guess.
I mean, I remember early on watching Josh, and two occasions really popped to mind where he really stood up against a room full of angry people. I mean, it was quite impressive. And he stood his ground, with courage. I mean, it was, he was at the city council at the time. Then there was another time where he was in a room full of
Was that the time he said he was Latino, or was that a
No, it wasn't.
No, he said he was half Latino, to be.
Sorry.
Anyway, another time he was in a room full of supporters and he disagreed with them, and he said, no, I really disagree with you. But I think the same temperament that gives you the strength to stand up to a room full of angry people. Also, on the flip side, maybe you don't listen the way you ought to be listening, and you don't feel the pain. You don't really listen other than to say, yes, but. And I think he is probably the most damning thing I've heard somebody say to me in this was, Josh is the sort of guy who doesn't know his wife is mad at him. I don't know if I can say that, but it was like, he doesn't quite get it. And I think that, he is on the side of history, he's on the side of change, and he's moving the needle forward. And when you were in that sort
Well,
of
he believes he
mindset,
is anyway. I would.
right, when you're in that mindset of destiny, it's hard to deal with the people who are actually living and breathing.
Yes, a legend in his own mind.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to go in a second, but I think that he needs to wake up because if he gets past Roy Lee, and I think most of us believe he will, just because he's got an incredible amount of money, and these campaigns are about money; they're not about issues. The future is more in peril for Williams because of all of this. It isn't just a couple of people. This stuff will stick, this stuff will last. And what it does is it empowers some person out there to run a real campaign early. And can he recover? I don't know what the independent's going to do, but that'll be a significant blow to his ego and to the perception of the people if he doesn't get it. And I don't know what they're going to do, but he's already lost a lot of support, and that's a sad situation for the 29-year-old Das Williams I remember, who was advocating for social justice, and now he seems to be advocating for corporations and the system that he once fought so hard against.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's, change versus more of the same. I mean, that's what the election's about. And people don't want more of the same. Or some people don't anyway. All
Well,
right.
I think that Roy Lee has really not made the case strongly enough.
No, too little, too
he
late.
knows enough about how the machinery runs to be able to make that change that you talked about as well. I mean, I know we're all beating up on Dots here, but I think part of it, Roy is sort of a green politician.
Yeah, but he's not doing himself any harm by taking this run either. I mean, he's boosting his business.
I will say this: Roy Lee was marching with the teachers last Tuesday, all the way from the Unitarian Society, to the district headquarters, and he was carrying a sign. And if we're of course, it's an election, and people do weird things during elections, but there's nothing stopping Das Williams from supporting teachers who are members.
So Das didn't show up in the parking lot at the last minute and jump to the front of the parade there.
He doesn't show up for things that don't directly benefit him. Like, if it's a different union that's not a part of the unions that give him money, he's not there. And I don't know that he'd be there for the teachers, but Roy Lee was. So you can give him credit for at least trying on that day.
All right. Callie, what are you working on for next time?
I'm heading out. Thank you for
your thanks, Josh.
I'm sorry. Callie, I hate to leave you.
No, that's okay. Well, here we are. What are you working on for next time?
I'm writing something about psychedelic therapies.
Are you?
Yeah, I recently tried it out.
Did you try ketamine?
Mm-hmm.
What'd you think?
It was crazy.
Did you? Was it with Dr. Drodes?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it's hard to explain the experience other than it's very out of body.
Yeah, disassociative. Yeah.
Yeah. It was pretty intense for the first few minutes, but after that, it was kind of just gliding. And
get the intermuscular or the IV injection?
The intermuscular. So he did it right here. So I'm going to be writing about that soon. I think that's what I'm most looking forward to.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. And you had the headphones with the music.
Yeah.
That's the most amazing part, the way that it sort of matches what's happening.
That's true. Yeah.
Or drives it or something. I'm not sure what exactly, but yeah. Oh, great. I'm really looking forward to that. So you're going to do a first person on that?
Yep.
Great. Okay. We'll look for that. All right. Before we leave, I just want to remind everybody, this is the final week of fundraising drive for KCSB 91.9 FM. It's a great community resource. I particularly enjoy the archives, the 62 years of archival material that they have over there. They've been covering a lot of things for a long time. Give them $25 or $50 if you can, 805-893-2424 or kcsb.org/donate. All right, we will see you next time on Newsmakers. Thanks to Josh Molina, Nick Welsh, and Callie Fausey, and thank you all for watching.